My name is Beth White, and I'm the Director of Graduate Enrollment here in the Jacobs School of Medicine at the University at Buffalo. Welcome. My role in the medical school is to kind of work broadly with all of our graduate programs, our master's and PhD level programs. But I'm also someone who supports certain programs, and I'm here today to assist Dr. Blader in talking about the microbiology master's program at UB. And I will turn it over to him, and if there are things I can chime in with, great, but he's the expert on this program, and so he's going to take it from here.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Beth. Like Beth said, my name is Ira Blader, and I'm the director of the Master's of Science program in Microbiology and Immunology here at University of Buffalo. And I'm going to talk to you today about our Master's in Science program. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions as we go along. Okay, and really feel free to ask me anything. Okay. My job today, what I want to do today is really tell you about our program, how to apply, and what we try to do in the program. Okay, so let me just start my slideshow here. Okay. Everyone can see my screen? Great. So today what we're going to do is, this is just kind of an outline. I'm going to tell you introductions, what, who, where our program is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what microbiology and immunology is. Yeah, my mouse is not behaving today. What is microbiology and immunology? And tell you a little bit about what you can actually do with a Master's of Science degree in microbiology and immunology, and then what we see ourselves as a program in helping you get there to do whatever your goals are. Okay. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our program itself, how the program is designed, what our course requirements are, and other facets of it. And then finally, the application process and procedure, actually how to apply, and a little bit of the timeline. Okay, so before we get going, our program's goal is, this is our mission statement, is really to identify, to provide students with advanced education in microbiology, immunology, and to prepare them for PhD programs or to pursue careers in academia and industry. That's our mission statement, and I think that this is what we try to do for each and every student who joins our program. Okay, a little bit about who we are. First of all, these are the people that run the program. First of all, I'm the program director. I'm a professor of microbiology and immunology in our department. And my job, I have two jobs. One is I run a lab, and my lab studies parasites and parasite pathogenesis. But more relevant for this discussion is I direct the program, the Master's of Science program, from admissions to graduation. So every step along the path I'm involved in, and help students get into the program, continue into the program, and then finally finish up and move on to the next stage. Okay, that's really what I try to help students do. We have a program administrator, that's Beatrice Harris. She actually works up in Beth White's office, and her job is really to process, to more the actual business end of the program, processing. For example, she'll help you process applications, get them to us in the department to be able to evaluate them. And she also handles things like enrollments and class registration and all those things. And then finally, the guy who runs this department is Jay Banks. He's the chairman of the department. And if you ever have any questions that are relevant for any of us, feel free to reach out to us by email, and you can find all of us on our website. Okay. Where are we? So we're in Buffalo, New York. Obviously, we always take these pictures when there's no snow on the ground. Okay. This is our building that we work in. It's in downtown Buffalo, and this is the inside of the building. And my lab is right over here on the side where you can't see it. Okay. And Beth's office, for you guys who want to know, is right back over here. Okay, so now you know where everyone is. And then finally, I think what Buffalo is most famous for is not only choking in football, for American football games, but also for buffalo wings. And this is where the buffalo wings were originally invented, and this is just the next block over from us. So, and they do taste better in Buffalo than anywhere else. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is microbiology and immunology. And I'm sure that most of you or all of you know what I'm going to say. I'm not going to really tell you anything you don't know, but I just want to make sure you guys that everyone understands what our program is and what we offer. Okay, so microbiology, to me at least, is the study of microorganisms, and that includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Okay. Immunology is the study of our body's defenses against enemies, both foreign, so these microbes, and domestic, so things like tumors or allergens, and how the immune system deals with and protects us from all these things. And sometimes it doesn't protect us, sometimes it goes haywire, and that's also a problem. Okay, now we are located in a medical school. Okay, we're a department we're a medical school department. And therefore, the majority of the studies that go on in our labs are related to human health. So if you're interested, for example, in anaerobic microbiology in lakes, this is probably not the best department for you, because we don't do that type of, it's very interesting, but it's very important. It's not what we do. We study primarily how microbes make you sick, how the immune system protects us against those microbes, how we could develop vaccines against those microbes, how we develop allergies to allergens, and we also study autoimmune disorders like lupus and multiple sclerosis and other things. Okay, so as you can tell, everything that we do is biomedically related and specifically associated with human health, not veterinary health. Okay, we have people who use models that sometimes can be that have some veterinary impact. But again, everything that we do is related to human health. Okay. Now, what can you do with a Master's of Science in Microbiology and Immunology? And when I took over this program, I actually thought about this for a lot. I took over the program about 2 years ago, and I actually thought about this a lot. You know, why do students join our programs? What can they do? Okay. And what I came up with is that really the Master's of Science, unlike just about anything else that we have in higher education, is I always look at this as an entryway into the next step in your life. Okay, after you get your bachelor's or your first degree, you're set to start. You have a bunch of different paths you could choose, but a master's really is the one that really places us on the road towards where we're going. And so, what are these various roads that you could take with a master's of microbiology and immunology? And it's just about anything that you could think of. So you could join a PhD program. We have students who go on to professional schools such as medical school or vet school or even nursing. Okay, there are some that join our program to be able to create more opportunities in their current jobs or future jobs in industry or universities or even in government. Okay, there are those that are interested in law and really interested in how biomedical sciences are relevant in law. There are those that are interested in government policy, and we see this has become really important, as you can see with the COVID pandemic, and how important science is in directing government policy. And we really do need people that are knowledgeable in microbiology and immunology to serve in these positions. And then finally, things like in communications and writing. So people who do marketing, people who do grant writing, who do scientific journalism, technical writing, illustration even. You need people who have a background in these fields are much more effective at communicating and communicating to the public and to the profession. Okay, but the most important thing is that we want our students to get the education and training that they want and need for their future. Okay, we are not here to shove a program down your throats. It's actually the opposite for us. I'll sit down with every student when they start and say, okay, what is it that you're interested in doing, and how can we help you get there? What are the courses you could take? What are the research experiences? What are the other things that you could do to get you to the next stage in your life? That's really what we want to do. And often these are the options that the students talk to me mostly about. Okay. So to do all this, how do we help you get to where you want to go? We have 4 objectives in our program. The first is to teach basic concepts in biochemistry and cell molecular biology, and apply this to the knowledge of to the fields of microbiology and immunology. Okay, so what we do is we start off, we get everyone on a level base of education, just in basic biology, and then we use those concepts to help build you up and become experts in microbiology and immunology. Okay, the second thing is we teach you how, as microbiologists and immunologists, to design, execute, and interpret experiments you'd be doing in a laboratory. Okay. Third is we teach you actually how to read, explain, and interpret the literature, microbiology, immunology, primary literature. And what I mean by primary literature, that means the papers that are published that have the latest discoveries in them. And again, I'll go back and use the COVID pandemic as an example of where people are not properly trained in reading the literature, misinterpret what's read, what's being discussed in that literature, and then we end up and then mistakes are made because of that. So I think it's really important to learn how to actually read this literature and use that information from it to move on to the next step in whatever problem you're trying to solve. Then finally, what we tried to do is we also tried to provide each student career development and counseling. So like I said, I'll sit down with a student and say, okay, what do you want to go into? A student will tell me, I'm really interested in pursuing a PhD in biomedical sciences, whatever field it is, say microbiology, immunology, and we'll sit down and I'll, with their transcripts, with their CVs, and we'll say, okay, this is what I think you need to become more productive, more competitive for when you apply to PhD programs. It could be more research, it could be more courses, it could be a lot of different things. Same thing if you're interested in going into job advancements. You know, what are the skills that you need? Is it writing? Is it more the ability to be able to read the literature? And we'll talk about how we can help you get there. Okay, so those are our program's objectives and what we're trying to do with every student that come into our program. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how our program works. Okay, we have it's a 3 to 4 semester program depending upon the track that you take, and we'll talk about what these tracks are in a second. Okay, but just bear with me. We do have 3 tracks. They're either it's a course-based track, a project track, and a thesis track. Regardless of the track that you take, you require a minimum of 30 academic credit hours. 14 of those are required didactic courses, and 16 of them are elective courses. 16 of those credits can be taken as electives. That could either be laboratory research or didactic courses. And what I mean by didactic courses, these are courses you go and your normal lectures where you'll sit down and a professor will lecture you and you'll take notes and maybe have an exam or do write up a paper for it. Okay, and then we also provide opportunities for doing laboratory research, and this is in real active laboratories doing real research. These aren't lab courses, and they work on all these labs work on what I would call significant questions and problems of microbiology and immunology, and we'll talk a little bit about what types of labs we have available. Okay, so let's talk about these tracks. As I said, there are 3 of them: a course-based, a project track, and a thesis. And I'm going to tell you what the goals are for each of these tracks, what courses are specifically required in the tracks, and then how actually you complete them. So the first one is our course-based track, okay, and the goal of that is to provide each student a solid background in concepts of microbiology and immunology. Okay, so this is all courses, and again, these courses could range from your lectures of basic microbiology, immunology to more, and I'll show you some examples of advanced topics in virology, in RNA structure, in computational biology. Okay, the courses that are available, you could satisfy the credits with any of the courses that we have that are available, and then finally, to be able to complete the program, you have to take a comprehensive exam, which will be based upon your courses that you've taken. The project track, which is probably the track that most of our students take, is where the goal of that is to learn how to work in a lab, and you do that usually on a shared project with a more senior PhD student or postdoctoral fellow in a laboratory. Okay. In addition to the courses, what you're required to take are 2 courses. One is called Intro to Research, And then we'll talk to get a little more about that in a bit. And then finally, a course that we call Masters of Science Project course. Okay, and then at the end of it, you're required to do a departmental presentation as part of our master's research symposium. Okay. The final track is called a thesis track, and that is the course based in the project track, a 3-semester length tracks, and the thesis track is there's a 4th semester, and that 4th semester, basically the difference between the project track and the thesis track is the intensity of the research that's going to be done. Okay, because you're going to be spending an extra semester in a lab. And there, what we really expect there is a student to be able to develop and test their own hypothesis rather than working on a shared project in the lab. You're much more independent, and you really have developed your own research project. Okay, in those courses, the courses required for that, again, you would take Intro to Research, but then you would take 2 semesters of MS Thesis, of an MS Thesis course, which would only be your research. And then finally, you would do a thesis defense, which includes writing up a thesis and then defending it to a thesis committee as well as in a public seminar. Okay. So any questions so far? Am I going too quickly? No? Okay. So let's talk about some of the required courses. We look at the required courses. There are two classes of required courses. First are our foundation courses that get everyone who come into the program up to the same speed. We have different students who come from different backgrounds and different degrees. And so we want to make sure that everyone has a basic understanding of to prepare them for the more advanced courses we have. Okay, there are 3 courses that we offer, that we require. And the first one is Microbial Biology and Biotechnology. And that's a course that's your basic microbiology and immunology, concepts of microbiology and immunology, and then also how to apply those to the biotechnology field. The second course is a course called Biochemical Principles, and this is a very general biochemistry course on biochemistry. It includes metabolic pathways, DNA synthesis, some cell biology, and then finally, our last course that's required is called Communicating Microbiology and Immunology. And this is really the first foray into which we teach students how to read and interpret the scientific literature. Okay, so students will be given papers and examples of papers to read, and then they sit down and they discuss what are the strengths of the papers, what are the weaknesses, learning how to identify those strengths and weaknesses, and actually how to present the data that's in the paper, and also learning how to discuss what the paper is saying and how to pick out, what are the important parts of the paper and what are the take-home messages. There's actually an art to doing all that. That's what we try to teach everyone. After you take the foundation courses, the next set of courses are called core courses. Okay, we have 4 of them that are offered in the department, and 2 of them must be taken as required courses. And these are courses that are more specialized and that delve deeper into each topic, even though they were covered very briefly in the microbial biology and biotechnology course. So the 4 courses are bacteriology, fundamentals in immunology, virology, and our last course is eukaryotic pathogens, which is a course where we teach both about pathogenic fungi and pathogenic parasites. Okay. Then finally, as I said, we have this will get you to your 14 credit hours that are required. And then we have another 16 credits that are required. And there are a bunch of courses that are available. And these are some examples of them. So some of our more popular courses is Introduction to the Human Microbiome course, our cell biology course. Inflammation and cancer is a very popular one. Obviously, with COVID happening, people are more interested in virology, and so advanced virology is becoming very, very exciting. And then the other one I think is really starting to emerge as an important course for us is our medical and nanotechnology course, where again, did you have a question? I'm sorry, Rex. I don't know if you had your hand raised. No. Okay. Okay, and so now what I want everyone to know is that as I said at the beginning, our goal is for students to be able to get where they want to go in their careers. And sometimes there are courses that are offered throughout the University of Buffalo. It's a huge university with 3 different campuses, I think the official number is about 2 billion different academic departments. Is that about right, Beth? And there are courses in all of those that students may find to be relevant to what they want to do. And this could be courses in our chemistry department, physics department, business department, right, our English department, communications department, art department, and I could go on and some of our engineering departments. And if there's a course that you want to take in those departments, you could petition, ask the program to be able to take those courses that are offered at UB and use them towards credit towards your graduation. Okay. I don't think we've ever said no. It just has to be something that really is relevant to the degree. If you want to take a course, I could imagine a course in art history probably would not fly, but a course in marketing may very well. If you're interested in scientific marketing in your business career, then that would be something that's very relevant to us, and we'd be happy if you took it. Okay. So the way that would work is you would come to me as program director and say, you know, Dr. Blade, I'm really interested in taking this course. Can you ask the department, can I get permission to do it? And then the department, we have a grad affairs committee that will discuss that. And as long as there's a good reason for it and good rationale, go for it. And we'd be really happy for students to do that.
Dr. Plater, there's a question in the chat on that from Bright. What's the maximum number of electives a student can take? And are they taken per semester or per year?
You know, I think that the maximum is what you could handle. You know, obviously, we want students to succeed, and we don't want I personally don't want students to overload themselves with courses. I find that 12 credit hours is probably the maximum amount that most students could handle. At least I could when I was in school. If students want to do more than that, they are free to do that. Okay, it becomes there's some scheduling issues with that, but if you could fit it in and feel that you could handle it, then go for it. But we would sit down as I'm also your academic mentor, and we would really talk about that, what your course load is. Did that answer the question? And I think I answered it right, Beth.
I think you did, yeah. And I think it's important to remember here too that these are graduate level courses, and so the rigor is more intense than maybe what you might have experienced as an undergraduate. So I usually caution students, I mean, as an undergrad, you might have been able to take a heavier load, and you might find in graduate school that's a little bit harder to do. So you just want to keep that in mind as well.
Yep, 100%. Thank you, Beth. Okay, oh, there's another question?
Nope, just a thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let's keep going. Where was I? Okay, there we go. So let's talk about our laboratory research. Okay, we have 2 phases of our lab research, and so the way this happened, let me just go back and just give you a little overview of the program. So in the fall of the first year, the first semester, you take that microbiology course, the biochemistry course, and the communicating science. And usually students will take one other course if they feel the need to have more credits. I'll get to that question in a second. Okay, that's an important question, and let's save that for the end. Okay. And then in the spring, people start thinking about research, okay, and courses. And they would take this course called Intro to Research. They take that in spring of year 1. And what they do is towards the end of the fall semester, they identify one of the research labs in our department or at UB that they want to work in. And they join that lab, and usually they work in together with the senior PhD student or postdoctoral fellow in that lab, helping with their project. Usually it's an offshoot of someone's main project, and the student and then the master student kind of helps keep that project going. And what they're learning how to do is they're learning how to do an experiment, develop it. They'll work with their mentor, with the professors in the department to develop the project, and they work also with PhD students to keep them going, and postdocs to really learn how to actually do the actual experiment. Okay. Then after that, then they will take in, depending upon if they do the MS project or MS thesis, they will take in the fall of the second year a second course called either MS project or MS thesis. That's usually for more credit hours. And there the student really has learned how to do has learned how to really function in a laboratory. And now they're going to work more independently at designing and performing experiments. Sometimes, often it's a continuation of this project, and now it really has become their own project instead of an offshoot of that senior PhD student or postdoctoral fellow. Or sometimes it's just something totally new that the students are doing. Okay. If a student chooses to do MS thesis research, there they continue for a fourth semester in the spring of year 2. But again, as I said earlier, this is a more intense format. And we really expect the students there is really to develop their own project. They do this in working with their mentor, developing the project, but it really becomes their own, and they design and perform their own experiments. And then at the end, they write and defend the thesis. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? I know I went kind of fast in that. Any questions about that? Okay. So we have I'd say a large number of potential mentors. This is just a partial list of them. And I've kind of split them up into two realms. One is microbiology and the other one is immunology. And these are some of the professors that we have. Some of them are in our department, and some of them are in other departments. For example, Catherine Kaufman is in a dental school, and she studies phage, which are viruses that infect bacteria. And these are and these are relevant to the oral biology, to dental school. Okay. We also have and then in immunology, again, some of these are our own faculty, but we also partner with faculty over at Roswell Park Cancer Institute, who, if people are more interested in cancer immunology and tumor immunology. And so, for example, Joe Barbie is one of our mentors in there. Again, if there is a faculty member here at UB that does any type of work that's relevant to microbiology and immunology, I am more than happy to set up the student to be able to work in that lab. Okay, that's our goal. If there's someone you want to work with, we will work our hardest to make it happen for everyone. Okay. So there's a little bit of word about our lab research mentors. All are funded by external grants from the National Institutes of Health or other agencies. And this is a big deal. What this says is that these people that our researchers are able to go out, get, apply for and compete for external funding, which is extremely competitive right now. They're not easy to get. And it says that our faculty are really doing some of the most cutting edge research in the country. Okay. All of us are experienced mentors. We've all had a lot of PhD and master students. We've all helped them go through the process, I think we're pretty good at that. Okay, all of our faculty publish in high impact prestigious journals, and that's kind of the currency of our field. You know, that your papers are where it matters. Okay, and then finally, and as I keep saying, all of us, our goal is to teach you, excuse the jargon here, how to be scientists, to be able to, if you're going to work in a lab, how to be able to design, execute, and interpret and communicate your experiments. Okay. So besides the regular coursework that we have, there are other things our department offers to help our master students reach their goals. One are weekly departmental seminars, and there are two types of seminars that we have. There are some seminars are science presentations that are given either by what we call internal speakers, and they're usually students and fellows in our labs that talk about their own research projects, or we invite outside speakers from other universities and companies who are really some of the leaders in their fields, and they come and not only give us research presentations about their latest research findings, but we also make sure that our students, both master's and PhD students, have the opportunity to sit down and talk with these scientists one-on-one. And this is really important. First of all, if there's something in the seminar you didn't understand, you can ask them about it. But it's a great way to meet some of the most some of the leaders in our field, and to be able to learn from them, but also to be able to network. So if later on you want to go train in their laboratories, you could email them and say, hey, you remember when you came to Buffalo and we had lunch and we talked about this? And you know, I really was interested in it. I'd like to pursue an opportunity to work with you in your laboratory. Excuse me. And I think that's a really important part in career development is networking. Okay. We also have the department also hosts annual symposiums in microbial pathogenesis, immunology, and DNA repair. There are other symposiums are over a span of a day or 2 days, a collection of seminars and research presentations, both by external speakers and by internal ones. Excuse me. And there are other symposiums that are on campus, hosted by other departments that you're more than invited to be able to participate in. Okay, the campus is very open and very collaborative, and we really make sure there are no barriers for our students to be able to interact with other departments and colleges. Okay. We also invite in people, I don't like to use the word alternative careers, but people who have non-academic career paths to be able to, I can teach you how to be a professor. That's what I do. It's harder for me to teach you how to be a science writer because I don't do that. And so we'll bring in people who have these careers outside of academia, in government, in industry, in policy, in law, and talk to you and explain to you, what that career is, what's the best way to get ready for it, and what do you need to be able to be successful in getting a job in those careers. And then finally, you have the opportunity to meet with faculty and other mentors to discuss your career goals. And it's not just me. All of our faculty here are interested in helping you. And if you have a question for any of them, I guarantee you, they are more than happy to talk your ears off to help you and listen to you and get to where you want to go. So how do you apply to our department? And so I want to talk about a couple of things. Okay, probably the first thing you're interested in is wondering what do we look for in applicants? Okay, and what we're really looking for are students. There's two things. One is that we're looking for students that are interested and excited to learn more about microbiology and immunology, and especially relevant to human health because we are a medical school. If you're interested in neuroscience, we have a great neuroscience program, and I suggest that you go there. We're not going to be able to teach you that much neuroscience, okay? And so we look at applications. We go, is this person really interested in microbiology, immunology? And if they're not, we'll contact you and say, I think you're great, but you're probably better suited to another program here at UB, okay? And that is, I have no problems doing that. And I think my colleagues in other programs would do the same, and I know they do, okay? The other thing that we do is we look for students that are going to succeed and thrive in our program, okay? We want to make sure you're going to be successful, okay? And it's not because we are looking at certain metrics or results to be able to say our program is really great. That's not why we do it. We do it because we're genuinely interested in making sure that our students do well in our program and can go on to the next stage of their career. And if we don't think that you're going to be able to thrive here, there's probably a better place for you to thrive at. And I think that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that you find where you need to be. And if it's here, great. If it's somewhere else, that's fine also. Okay. So how do you actually apply? And I'm sure that you've all been to is that the actual name of it, Beth, the application portal?
Yes, yep, that's what we call it. And I'll paste this link in the chat too, so that you can find it from the microbiology website.
Thank you. This is how you start the application. Okay, you go in there, you fill out your name, all your biographical information and all that. Once you apply, then there's a supplemental process of where you submit a personal statement and transcripts. And so why do we ask for a personal statement? Okay, and what are we looking for? in a personal statement. We want to know if we're the right program for you, not if you're the right person for our program. Okay, and I want to stress that. And so we want to know, why are you interested in microbiology, immunology? And if you are we really the right program for the type of microbiology, immunology that you're interested in? Okay, we want to know, as I said, if you're going to thrive here, if you're going to do well here, if you're going to grow. And if not, by seeing that information, we may be able to help you find a place that's better suited for you. Okay. What materials do you need? Okay, as I said, you're going to need transcripts. I think in order for us to officially be able to accept you into the program, we have to have official copies of the transcripts at some point. But if that's a problem getting to us, at least try to get us your grades, and then we'll start working with those. Is that correct, Beth?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so we will work with unofficial grades to start the process. So we don't need you to send official transcripts, especially from overseas. If you're an international student, those unofficial copies you can upload yourself will be fine to get us started. And then if you're admitted, of course, you need to provide those official versions to verify them.
We also require reference letters. Okay, and what we want to see in the reference letters that are written by people who could talk about you as a student and your interest in microbiology and immunology. Okay, usually that includes former professors, supervisors at jobs, colleagues, so it's really it's a diverse type of letter writer that can write it. But that's really what we want to know about. We want the reference letter writer to be able to give us some information about who you are as a student, and again, about what your interests are in microbiology, immunology, and if you're really going to be able to prosper and thrive in our program. And then finally, test scores. And I want to talk about this for a second. We do not require Gre scores anymore. Okay. Now, please don't pay for those. If other programs do it, all the power to them. I see no use. I've never seen any use of them, and I think they're a waste of time. But there are some test scores that require, and usually they're English proficiency exams for students who come from abroad where English is not their either language, the native language, or the language that they use in their instruction in universities. Okay, I think that UB has a list of countries that are excluded, that are given waivers from this requirement. But if not, unfortunately, we do require it. And as someone who I went to university in a foreign in a different country that spoke a different language, it was so hard for me, because at the time my knowledge of that language was horrible, and it was difficult. And I wish that they had done these type of proficiency tests for me. It was really a very difficult time for me. Okay, so we want to make sure that you could actually, our instruction is in English, and we want to make sure that you could understand and communicate in English at a level to be able to succeed in our program. Okay, but Gre scores are not required. If you want to submit them, that's fine with me. But they would not be used in making a decision for admittance to our program. Okay. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about is past research experience. Okay, and you're going to see this on the application about asking you to describe some of your past research experience. If you have it, great. Tell us about it. It'll help me. It'll help us have a better understanding of who you are and what you're interested in. All the power to you. I'm happy to read about it. I always love to read about people's experience in science. Okay, but if you don't have it, that does not mean that you're going to be judged any less strongly in the application process. And the reason for this is not a PhD program. In PhD programs, usually you're going to want to see that requirement for some past research experience. But our job is to prepare you for PhD programs, and therefore is to provide you research experience. So please do not hesitate to apply. Don't feel like you won't be competitive for admittance to our program because you don't have any past research experience. Okay, just tell us. Say, hey, the university I was at didn't have opportunities for research. but I'm really interested in doing it, or I couldn't do it for family reasons, and for whatever reason, okay, we don't care. Okay, that's not our concern. Our concern at this program is to teach you actually how to work in a laboratory. So again, the past research experience is not it should not be considered a negative factor in our admissions policy. Okay.
Can I ask a question too? Because there was
Yeah.
a question in the chat from a student about he has business degrees, so his academic degrees are in the business area as opposed to science, and he was wondering if you would consider him for this program without the scientific course background.
So let's go back to this issue here about students are going to succeed and thrive in our program. Okay. We can't go back and teach. It's a great question. And I'm really excited about students who have a background in business coming to our program. You increase the diversity of the interest in our department, and I'm excited about that. On the other hand, I think that we have to, when I talk about evidence they're going to succeed and thrive in our program, is do they have a basic understanding of biology to be able to go into our microbial biology and biotechnology course and be able to do well in it, to be able to pass the biochemistry course or that microbiology course. So you're going to have to know some basic chemistry. I think is I would say organic chemistry. I'd want to see some evidence of organic chemistry, some evidence of biology coursework, and it could be, there's a broad array of that. It could be general biology courses. There could be an undergraduate course in microbiology, an undergraduate course in cell biology, a lot of different things. But when I look at a transcript, I want to know, does this person have the basic tools to be able to do well in that program? If you don't, or you're not sure about that, email me and ask me. Send me your transcript and I can give you an idea of what I see there. Okay, that doesn't guarantee acceptance or not acceptance to the program, but I can help you get an idea of, do I think you're prepared for this? And if you're not, what type of courses can you do to help you get prepared? Okay, does that answer that question? Because it's a really great question. I'm happy someone asked it. Okay. Okay, so, and finally, just a little bit of a timeline of the application process. The first step, obviously, is you have to apply. Okay, we can't somehow sense through the web that you looked at our website and you want to come to our program. Okay, you have to actually apply and you have to submit all the materials. We cannot look at an application that's only partially filled out. Okay, it's too difficult because we don't know, we don't know if there's really a commitment to join the program if transcripts aren't there or if a personal statement's not there. Okay. The second thing, what happens then is once you apply, the application will be sent to our department, and there's an admissions committee that's composed of a couple of faculty members that are going to meet and evaluate the application. And again, as I keep saying, what we're looking for are students that we think can do well, that are going to be successful in our program and should be in this program and not in a different program. And then once we make a decision, we're going to make them as quickly as possible. We're not going to we try not to string people along, and we're going to send you our decision as quickly as we can after the decision is made. Usually it's all electronic. Once we put in the computer accept, then you get a letter sent out right away, or pretty close to that. Okay. And then I should have put in here 4 is you have to respond to us. Just because you've been accepted, if we don't know you've accepted our acceptance, then you're not officially in the program. Okay, so that's also an important part. And the sooner you could accept, the better it is for all of us. Okay. And then finally, I just want to end up in talking a little about where our graduates go. Okay. And, I started running our program about 3 years ago, and I was very interested in this question of, what do students do to get a master's degree in microbiology and immunology? And what really surprised me was the breadth of career options. I said this at the beginning, that people have taken. So most of our students that have finished up have gone on to PhD programs. They've used the master's program to be able to prepare them for a PhD program. Either they felt they needed more research, they needed some research experience, or more coursework to make them competitive for these programs. And sometimes people didn't know if they wanted to even go into a research program, into a PhD program, and they didn't want to commit to 6 years of their life in a PhD program. So they thought they would try it out in a master's program that was only a year and a half, and see if this is really what we want. Okay, many of our students roll over into a PhD program in our department or in a different department at UB. Okay, and often, I'd say very often, when they do that, they end up staying in the laboratory that they did their master's research in. Okay, and often their thesis project is kind of built off of what they worked on. So you're really getting a head start in your PhD work when you do your master's with us. Not always, and projects change and labs can change, but that's one that's one that seems to be a common theme that happens. Okay, we have some students that end up going to medical school or to other professional school. I had one student that ended up going to nursing school. Great. I'm excited about that. I think it's important. I can't tell you how important I think it is that people who end up in the healthcare field have a good understanding of basic biology, of basic microbiology, immunology especially, and are really are front-facing in healthcare field and delivering to patients. Okay, if you could explain to them the science behind what you're doing, how you're treating them, they will, trust me, that they will be much, patients will have better success outcomes because they will be more inclined to understanding what you're doing for them. Okay, we have students that go on to the pharmaceutical industry. We have students that are actually currently in the pharmaceutical industry that want to get a master's program to be able to advance their careers further in there. Either their own company, within their own company, current companies, or to be able to search for a job in a different company. We've had students that are interested in education. That can include teaching, but also in jobs like what Beth does in admissions and running a university. Okay, having a master's degree in this discipline really I think is something that we're really starting to think about in developing academic leadership. Okay, and then finally, government agencies. We talked about, I said at the beginning, I got on my soapbox about how important COVID has really shown us that we have people who work in government and policy who have an understanding of the basics of basics in microbiology, immunology, how important that is. So I think that's it. I'm just going to put this up here again with our contact information. And I think Beth could also put that in the chat, the people involved. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
We had a question in the chat about the timeline for decisions for students who've already applied for fall of 2022.
The timeline is that when we try to review applications as they're submitted. Like I said, we will not, it's difficult for us to look, the way the system is set up, I don't get applications on my desk unless they're completed. And so if you felt you submitted an application and you haven't heard a while ago, and you haven't heard from me, go in and check and make sure that everything is submitted. And if there's something that's misunderstood about that, contact Beatrice and she could help you figure out what's missing. Okay, so it's not, when Beth is going to laugh at this, I may believe I was applying to the master's program in microbiology immunology just to see the process, and I couldn't figure out how to log in. So it's not. I wish it was simpler, and I think we're all working on making it a simpler system. But that's it.
Yeah, you want to go to that apply now link, and you will have to create an account and remember login credentials to kind of navigate the process. So that is something to just keep in mind. Give yourself time to kind of get that moving when you start the application.
Yeah. But Beatrice, Beatrice is wonderful, and she knows the system. If you have any questions, she is probably so patient and will help you guys work through that.
Yeah, she really likes working with students. So she wanted to be here today, but wasn't able to be. So I would don't hesitate at all to reach out to her. She's really your first point of contact during the application process.
Does that answer the question about timeline or? Okay, next
I've
question.
gotten a few questions that are specific to international students that maybe I can just touch on quickly, Ira.
Yep.
So there was a question earlier in the chat about an international student being a part-time student. So if you're coming to the US to study, you'd be on an F1 visa, and that means that you would be here to be a full-time student. That's your reason for residing in the United States. If you're on a different type of visa, you're already living in the US on some other type of visa, sometimes part-time study may be possible. So I think you'd want to email Beatrice or Dr. Blader if that was your situation, to kind of find out what the options are. But if you're coming here F1, then you need to be full-time, which is defined as 12 credits or more every semester.
Yeah, can I just chime in about part-time studies?
Sure.
The way the program is set up, we set up our program to get students through as quickly as possible, because we understand that these programs cost money. Okay, and so we've tried to make the program in a 3-semester, which I think is probably the shortest we could do a master's program for a lot of logistical reasons I don't want to get into right now. If anyone wants to know, I can tell you, but part of that, so the difficult part with part-time is that I don't even know if it's possible to complete the program in the 3 semesters if you do it on a part-time. So even for domestic students. Now, I understand that there are students that are working and have difficulty in doing a part-time, and I'm happy to work with students and talk to them about how to do that. But we do have to understand that there's a give and take there. Okay, so the expectation to be able to finish up in 3 semesters is going to be much more difficult to achieve for both logistical reasons and scheduling reasons than if you did it as on a full-time process. The other thing that we can do, let's say that something we can do, that there are students that are interested in certain courses. We can do things on what we call a non-matriculated status. Let's say you're really interested in learning about virology and want to just do a couple courses in virology, talk to me and we'll see if that's something that's doable, where you come in and really just focus on you apply again, you still have to apply to the program. We have to make sure we want to feel again, you're going to be successful and there's a good reason for you doing it. But it's something that we could discuss if anyone's interested in that. Okay.
I had a question about application fee waivers for international students. Unfortunately, UB really doesn't have a way to waive those fees for international students. So our application fee is $85, and that would be something that you would need to pay to have your application considered and have it be considered complete. And there was another question, Dr. Blader, about assistantship funding for master's students and whether that's an option in your program.
We don't have a lot of ability to do that. We have 3 teaching assistantships that are available. They are for $1,500 per semester, and they're for the 3 semesters. But there are only 3, and they're given out on a competitive basis. So usually it's our top applicants, and for better or worse, it's very difficult for us to judge top applicants. It's usually based upon grades. Okay. It's not need-based. There are no, at least from the department, there are no need-based scholarships that we could offer. I wish there were, but unfortunately there aren't.
Yeah, and I think you'd find that's generally typical across our programs. I mean, there is funding available for students at the PhD level at UB and in the medical school, but it's, I think, a little more difficult to find at the master's level.
Can I ask a question of everyone here? And you could just type the answer in the chat. Why are people interested in a master's program? Are you interested mostly in getting research experience for a PhD program, or in preparing yourself for a career in medicine or in industry? It's my own curiosity. Am I allowed to ask that question, Beth?
Of course, yeah, we can get to know who's with us today. Absolutely.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your presentation, Dr. Blader. That was really helpful. Actually, before I answer your question, can I ask mine first?
Yes, sir.
So I looked through like the curriculum and stuff, and I was wondering, why do you put so much importance on, covering like all 4 major areas of research? Like, why do you put so much emphasis on, making the students like learn all this stuff? Like, why don't you just make, say, the students interested in virology? Why don't you just like set up just specific courses for them to, succeed in virology? Why do you make them study all the research areas?
It's a great question, and I'll tell you my philosophy on it. Okay, and one is that I think in order to be a good virologist, you have to be a good biologist and a good microbiologist and good immunologist. And there are a lot of lessons that we learn. So I work on parasites, okay? And there's a lot, I'll read a paper on a virus and go, wow, that could be happening in my system as well. And I can't read that paper unless I have that basic understanding. So that's the first reason, okay? The second reason is that often, and I apologize if this doesn't, if you don't agree, okay, and everyone's allowed to disagree with me. I don't have a problem with that. I find that people, young scientists and people who are just starting out, have an interest in something and don't realize that, other things could be interesting. And usually they have that interest in something because that's what they were exposed to at first. And I'll use myself as an example. I never, when I was starting out, never thought I would have been a parasitologist. And actually, I'm a neuroscientist by training. I did my PhD in neuroscience. I wanted to study how, when you're stressed out, you are more prone to getting sick and what makes you stressed out. Never in my wildest dreams did I, and I love doing neuroscience. I love studying how neurons interact with each other. And I could go on about neurobiology more than you thought I can, okay? And I never, and then as I was finishing up my PhD, I learned about the parasite I work on, toxoplasma, that infects the brain and causes, really significant issues in the brain, okay? And it took me 20 years of working on toxoplasma to then go back to my neurobiology roots and to really study why, when you're infected with toxoplasma, does your brain get messed up? Okay, and you can read some of my papers, and it's absolutely fascinating how that happened. And that never would have happened if I didn't have that background, not only in neurobiology, but believe it or not, in immunology, because I now become an immunologist. I used to fall asleep in immunology lectures. I hated immunology when I was at your stage, okay? So I that's the reason why I think it's important to get that good fun. You need a base. In order to grow up, you have to have something solid here at the bottom, at your base, okay? Because if this isn't solid, you're going to grow up on quicksand and you're going to crumble, okay? That's my philosophy on it. I hope you agree with me, but if you don't, that's fine too.
I certainly do. Yeah, I mean, because as an undergrad at University of Connecticut right now, I'm in my final semester. I feel the same way too. Like, I've been taking a lot of classes in multiple multiple directions. Like I take immunology, microbiology, biochemistry, and all this stuff. And I feel like those are really necessary to know before you go into a specific area.
Yep. Yep. And who knows, you may become a neuroscientist one day. It's just crazy how it works out.
And so we're at the hour mark, and so maybe we want to take one more last question, Dr. Blader.
Yeah.
Good morning, doctor. I'd like to ask the prerequisites that would be most suitable for this program. If somebody is not from this background, as you have already said, then what should be the ideal course to move ahead into this microbiology and immunology at Buffalo? What should be the preparatory steps before we apply, or if we can apply and then we can proceed with those courses?
I don't want you to have. Okay, so I don't want you to spend the money and apply and then get an application. Let's say you're an art student and apply and then pay the application fee, and then we reject you because you're not prepared for it. I would say that as I said before, a good background in chemistry, organic chemistry to me is always an important course. If you have undergraduate advanced biology courses, whether they be in medical microbiology, whether it be in immunology, it could be in genetics, it could be in cell biology. So if you have any questions, just email me a list of like an unofficial transcript. I can just tell you whether or not I think you're prepared. Okay, that's probably the best way to answer that. But I don't think there's any real one answer to what's the magic bullet in being able to prepare you for the program. Okay, it's really on who each person is.
But aren't there any specific courses that can actually fill the gap, or should I say bridge the gap between the knowledge and what we learn at the MS program, so that there is a smoother transition?
No, I can't answer that question. And if you want to, feel free to email me, okay, offline, and send me your transcripts. I could tell you if there's anything I see lacking. How about that?
Right, sir. Done that. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, you guys are a great group. We had some really good questions today. I'm really glad you all joined us. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up, Dr. Glader?
Yeah, I see that people now are messaging me. Feel free to email me your questions if I don't. I'm reading them right now and I can't read quickly enough. But I don't want to miss out on anybody's questions. So and I apologize, but we do have to move on. Please email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm excited. This is my favorite part of my job, is actually running this program and meeting all people coming in. Okay. But I also like doing experiments, so that's the other problem.
And I'm going to paste your email address. It was on the website I shared, but let me just put it right in the chat here so everybody's got it before we sign off. So there's Dr. Glader's email address. So if you have questions we haven't gotten to today, please reach out to him. As you can see, he's really accommodating and willing to talk to students. So he'll be a great person to answer anything else that might have come up for you. So thank you all very much for joining us today. We are recording this, so we will have this available on our website, so you can refer to it if you want to check out anything that maybe you don't quite remember from the first go through. And I hope that we'll see your application. So please keep in touch with us, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.